Hi, everybody. This is JP Verne here. I'll be the moderator for this panel discussion on ransomware, the darker side of Bitcoin. I'm very excited to be running this panel discussion today with three great panelists that will introduce themselves in a minute. So just so you know, I'd like to remind you of a couple of features of this presentation. So an important one is that you can ask live questions to us, and that we will pick as many of them as possible, and we'll answer them mostly during the second half of this panel discussion, but you can just write your questions anytime. Another interesting feature you should keep in mind is that you can download a number of attachments and click on a number of links that we've prepared for you that are all relevant to today's conversation. And about the topic itself, I'd like to announce that we'll spend the first half of the panel discussion specifically on the issue of ransomware and malware and cryptocurrencies, but we'll broaden the scope of the conversation during the second half to discuss more generally innovation in payment system and financial services, and the new cybersecurity threats and risks that are associated with that, because we've got three experts with us today, so we'll be able to broaden the conversation a little bit. So now over to our panelists. The first one that we have with us today is Alexander Hinchliffe from Unit 42 at Palo Alto Networks. Hi, Alex. How are you? Would you like to say a few words to introduce yourself to our audience today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, JP. Great to be here today and looking forward to the discussion. Before I get into my introduction, I just saw a question from the audience or a statement saying that one of the URLs to Palo Alto Networks website was not working. So we're going to try and get that fixed in the background so people can get hold of that attachment to the Unit 42 threat report. But my name is Alexander Hinchliffe, or Alex Hinchliffe, and I work for the Unit 42 threat research team within Palo Alto Networks. I'm a threat intelligence analyst working there, and effectively my roles and responsibilities are to research threats and campaigns and actors behind all those things, using, for the most part, the data that Palo Alto Networks receives into its organization. And that comes from our security platform, which is an endpoint, next generation firewall, and a sandbox in the cloud. And we also get third-party feeds and share threat intelligence data with other companies and partners and certs around the world. Using that data, we try and find out what the threats are doing, and we don't necessarily do much of the operational work for the company, like making sure that things are detected and blacklisted, but we actually take a step back from the front line, so to speak, look at all that data and try and piece everything together to figure out where the attacks are happening, who's doing it, what their motivations are, what the tactics are, and the resources they have to do the attacks. And then we try and share that information out with other people and customers and partners to educate people on what's going on.
All right, thanks, Alex. This sounds like a fascinating work, and then you get to deal with a lot of the gray area actors that are operating in cyberspace today. Next, we have Sammy Zephyr from Edgar Dunn & Co. with us today. Hi, Sammy. How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Great.
Okay.
So, Sammy, could you say a few words to introduce yourself?
Yes, of course. So my name is Sammy Zephyr. I am a partner in Edgar Dunn & Company. We are a strategy consulting company, and we focus on financial services, but we have a sweet spot in payments. I am based in the London office. We have 7 offices around the world. We are a global company and have experience working with some of the largest banks in the world, central banks, but also tech companies, mobile operators, and other innovators, but always in a context of financial services or payments. I lead the firm's advanced payments practice, so the innovations and new business models and all the fintech stuff that is taking place. That's the area that I deal with, and I work with clients on that specifically. Previously, I worked for PricewaterhouseCoopers in their e-commerce financial services e-business area, and before that, I worked for Visa International, the card company. So that's me.
Thanks. That sounds like you have a really great background to be able to provide a lot of insights to the conversation today. Next, we have Mark Lavender from BT. Hi, Mark. How are you?
Yeah, good afternoon, JP. Thanks for inviting me.
Well, we're glad to have you.
Great, thank you. So by way of introduction, my name is Mark Lavender. I work for BT Security, and I'm the General Manager of Threat Intelligence and Investigations. And my responsibility is like Alex's, is one of identifying sort of advanced threats. But in addition, I've also got the responsibility, very much on the coalface of some of the issues that we all face on a day-to-day basis. I've got teams across North America, Europe, and also in Singapore, and I own the relationship with a lot of our law enforcement partners as well. My background is similar to many of us within the industry, in as much as I've been with BT for 3 years now, and prior to that I was within the intel world, within law enforcement and sort of other government departments. All
right, thanks, Alex. And finally, I'll say a few words about myself. So I'm a strategy professor at Ivy Business School in Canada, and I'm coordinating two research centers that are relevant to today's topic. The first one is the Crypto Capitalism Center that does research on cryptocurrencies and blockchain, and the second one is the Scotiabank Digital Banking Lab at Ivy Business School. And for those of you who are not too familiar with it, Scotiabank is one of the largest banks in Canada. They don't have a strong presence in Europe, but they have a strong presence in many parts of the world. So I've been doing research on these issues for a couple of years now. So I would like to start our discussion today, maybe with you, Alex. Could you maybe provide a brief overview for our audience today of the various threat actors that are out there, their various motivations, levels of sophistication, what they're really trying to do out there, and who are their primary targets?
Yeah, sure. So I guess that we've got a bit of a mixed audience today, some technical, some not so technical. So I'll start with a bit of a definition of ransomware itself. So I guess a good description is ransomware is a type of malware capable of preventing access to data on a system or the system itself, as we've seen with mobile devices recently being locked and things, holding it for ransom and then demanding a payment to decrypt or to unlock that device. And in the olden days, we used to see payments via even check and other e-payment and systems. And nowadays we see Bitcoin, which is the topic of today's discussion. So that's a good thing. Ransomware has evolved over many years, and I think later on throughout this discussion, I'll probably talk a lot about the history of and the evolution of ransomware. But it has come a long way over many years. In terms of the threat actors, the people who are behind it, with ransomware, which is another kind of unique type of malware, is that it's really anyone. A lot of the malware is commodity malware. It's off the shelf. You can buy it, make your own, and we see a lot of, fairly big actor groups doing ransomware attacks, especially the more sophisticated kind of enterprise level attacks. But we also see just often random people trying to get their own malware kits, build ransomware, and try and make some money. And really, that's the main motivation, is money. Because if you find any kind of device or property or PC that has some data hold to ransom, then chances are people are going to pay good money for that because it's their data.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think that it would just to close up on that. I think in terms of the targets, it can be anyone really. Ransomware doesn't discriminate. It could be a small, medium enterprise company. It could be a Fortune 500 company, or it could be your parents, for example. And typically this malware arrives through a phishing email, and we've seen a bit of an evolution there as well, where bad actors would do a spray and pray or fire and forget model of sending out an email to thousands or millions of email addresses to hopefully get even 10% of people clicking on links or opening attachments and getting infected, to more targeted attacks and attacks against enterprise networks, and also use of exploit kits. So just casual web browsing could infect people who go to a compromised website without them knowing it's compromised, they get some background traffic to another website and get infected. So really, there's no discrimination, and it's just all about making money for the bad guys.